What up, Wizards? It's Dev. You know, Mtg Foundations might actually be one of the most hyped sets since I started this YouTube channel, which is wild, just when you consider all the sets that are in Standard right now. We got the Brothers War, the Phyrexia set, another Return to Dominaria. You remember how hyped Bloomborough was? But I still think that the excitement level for this set surpasses all of those, which is just bananas. But even with that level of hype, there's still a ton of cards in the set that I think people are not paying anywhere near enough attention to. And that's where I'm coming in today, man. I get to do my favorite video of every previous season. You know that by now. It is the top 10 sleepers in Mtg Foundations.
And I'm your favorite Magic Channel's favorite Magic Channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck tech.
And we're back. We are, in fact, so back. Now, I gotta say, first things first, I feel like this is a much more powerful looking sleepers list than usual. You know, often I'm just pointing at some dinky commons for the first few cards being like, I don't know, it probably goes in this one tier W deck and brings it up to tier P. Could happen, but in this case, I actually think most of the cards on the list look really, really good to me, and I'm surprised that so many people are missing them in all the dust and smoke and mirrors and card tricks and whatnot. But I kind of say all that to set you up for disappointment with the honorable mention, which is Midnight Snack, almost certainly the least powerful card that I'll talk about today, but that's kind of why it's the honorable mention. Have you seen this picture of Luann eating pancakes? This card has hilarious art, but this is not a top 10 best arts in the set list. Maybe I should do that. But Midnight Snack is just one of those cards that kind of intrigues me, and I can fully admit that it's probably not very good, but it's still something I want to play with right now. I'm just, I've been playing Magic for 30 years, and I'm counting up all the times that I've gained 15 life in a turn, and it didn't really amount to much, where if I had Midnight Snack, I would have won the game. So we'll see, man. I'm just going to brew with it. I think it's a really fun card that probably isn't super powerful, but again, it's going to make one of my lists this year. I want to talk about it. And besides, what are HMs for? Why am I doing this if I can't put stupid bad cards in my honorable mentions? Just in case they're actually busted. But I don't think we have that to worry about. It's just a fun card. But moving into the top 10 here, again, number 10 is usually an extension of the honorable mentions, and I've kind of kept that tradition up with Archmage of Runes here. This card costs too much. It costs 5 mana, which is too much, and I want to acknowledge that. But it also has, kind of one of the most broken lines of text available in Standard right now, period, point blank. I'd say that the line of text that says cast an instant or sorcery, draw a card is borderline dangerous to just have in Standard. It does seem like in this set, Wizards decided they could gate incredibly powerful lines of text behind a really high mana cost. It seemed to be a philosophy they used over and over in this set on these ridiculous 6 to 10 mana enchantments they keep printing. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see this card see some play, mostly again because the text box is so freaking ridiculous. To the point of oh my god, they printed that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think there's probably something here, but it's mostly a combo potential. You'll very likely, if you ever see this, see it in some kind of really funky, unconventional deck, but that's kind of what makes me like cards in decks some of the time, so I'm looking forward to it. Number 9 is Exemplar of Light. Look, there's 12 of Johnny's Primates in this set. One of them has to make one of my lists, right? The life gain deck, as it's built right now, does not have a ton of ways of getting extra cards. Sometimes it'll play Enduring Innocence, and that's a decent card for those decks to play. But they need a little bit more dimension when it comes to actually, getting real card advantage, and I think if that deck had a way of doing that, it would be much more dangerous, and this card provides that. While still being, perhaps some of the time the best threat in the deck. So I think Exemplar might be the card that puts those life gain decks, sort of over the hump in terms of, again, going from tier W to tier P. But in this case, it's going from tier L to tier C minus. So, it might actually make a real tangible difference and be the card that everyone's kind of scared of coming down on turn 4 in those decks. Because it almost always draws a card the turn it comes down. And I think that's another thing we're not talking about, is how good this card can be the turn you play it. So that's usually a bar for spikes to be into a card. This card replaces itself the moment it comes down. And that's definitely something worth noting too. So I just think that we're not talking enough about this guy. People are dismissing it mostly based on casting cost. It's a terrible mistake. Number 8, there's a reason that we have a front half of the list. Mostly cards I don't have all the faith in the world in, but in this case, it's Sylvan Scavenging. This is, a fight rigging, Luminarch Aspirant, and Innkeeper's Talent. It's one of these things. It's going to put a counter on a dude every single turn. It actually does it the turn it enters the battlefield, which you don't get from, all of these all the time. So that's kind of neat. It's always that no matter what, which I kind of like. Also triggers Constellation, Enchantress effects, and Eerie is the one that's in standard right now. So I guess that's worth pointing out. But also the second mode on this that just passes you out a 3/3/3 every turn, a free 3/3 every turn that you have a large enough dude on the table is actually, I think, a very good mode. I think it really is. A free token every turn, and a pretty sizable token for that matter, that's really easy to, enable. Yeah, I'll take that most days. We just got Slumbering Cerberus. I talked about that video, I believe, in the Power Dragon video. We talked about underrated new stuff. So he didn't make the list, but I really wanted him on my sleepers list too. He's just a 2 mana, 4 power guy. And he's pretty good with a bunch of setups, one of them being Garrick's Uprising, another one being this card. Turn 2 Cerberus, turn 3 this card, get yourself a 3/3. It's almost like you didn't do nothing on your turn. So, I don't know. I just think that having a free creature factory, well, not free, but a creature factory more or less every turn is pretty sick. It's not Urbrass Forge or anything, but it's still not a half bad Magic card. And note too that if you have the correct creature land out, like say a Restless Cottage, which is in the correct, it's in the correct colors. If you attack with your Restless Cottage, or even if you just have nothing better to do, you just want to activate your Restless Cottage and get your free 3/3 at the end of the turn because you control a 4 power guy, you can do that too. There's just a lot of stuff with this card you can do that, again, I don't feel like we're talking about the depths of what the card is capable of. And even some of the cards that are already seeing play in standard that play well with this, and I think that matters too. So, again, not all the faith in the world, but I do like the cut of its hair. It's a good-looking Magic card. My number 7, I think this is where we take a real step up in how powerful these cards look to me, is Kiora the Rising Tide. Now, this is a 3 mana, 2 power thing. This doesn't look great, right? But first of all, she's got an ETB trigger, which is generally the mark of a halfway decent creature, if nothing else. You draw 2, you discard 2 when she comes into play. All right. And if you have Threshold, then when she attacks, you get an 8/8. A 3 mana creature that results in an 8/8 on turn 4. Really, really easily too. This puts 2 cards in your yard for Threshold. You've had 2 turns. You've had turns 1 and 2 to put other cards in your yard. And on turn 4, you'll have 3 to 4 mana to put more cards in your yard. So if you don't have a Threshold by turn 4, you've just drawn really poorly or constructed your deck in the wrong way, because it should be easy enough to get Threshold by then. What's the downside? I mean, what is it, a 3-drop the dice to cut down? Again, gave you an enter the battlefield trigger. If nothing else, you got value. So I just really don't see a single bad thing about this card. But let's go ahead and move on to number 6 before my head explodes. I don't get the lack of, not love, just discussion for Kiora. Kiki's amazing, dude. Kiki, do you love me? Because I love you. But number 6 is a Perforating Artist, man. What? Not a word about this card that I actually think is just better than Braids. That's maybe not the most objectively correct statement. Braids will put cards in your hand and stuff. Oh, that's really good. But this happens to be a 3-drop that I don't have to come down on board presence to force this pretty horrible decision on my opponent. Attacking is pretty easy, and this guy can have some value. Again, the turn that it comes down shouldn't be too hard in your aggro deck to attack on turn 3. That's mostly when you want to be doing it. So I just really think that this situation is a nightmare for a lot of opponents because it is extremely easy to enable, and you don't even have to attack with the artist itself. So this is, in fact, a proper artist with a knife. I really like this card, and I think that it's day 1 powerful. It's crazy to me in some ways. This is just an uncommon because I think it's very playable. Another 2-drop or another 3-drop the dice cut down. I can hear you say it right now. Also, don't care. I have ceased to care. Sometimes, Unstoppable Slasher dies to cut down. Who cares? Yeah, it comes back, whatever. But still, there are 3-drops that see play in this format that die to cut down, and that cannot be the only thing keeping an amazing Magic card from seeing play. I think this will. But number 5 is another uncommon. It's Revenge of the Rats. Look, I feel like I've talked about this card a lot recently, so I'm not going to belabor the point right now because most of you have seen me go on and on about Revenge of the Rats. But I really like these graveyard-centric, like, mill yourself decks, and then play one of the dudes that has power and toughness, each equal to the creatures in your yard. We got like 3 or 4 of these good dudes in Standard right now. They all cost like 2 mana, But those decks can go tall, and get chump blocked a lot. They don't have a good way of providing trample to their huge dudes. They're susceptible to single target removal spells, because if your opponent draws 3 or 4 in a game, then you're gonna have a kind of a rough time most of the time against those decks. But this gives you a chance to go wide. And another problem that it solves is that often you don't want too many non-creatures in your green-black mill self deck, because most of your cards care about creatures for whatever reason, so they care about how many creatures in your yard. So usually you just end up on like 4 go for the throat and 32 creature spells to make sure that when you mill creatures. This helps solve that problem. You mill it into your yard and you just cast it for its casting cost. Milling it is effectively the same as drawing it, which I think is bonkers, dude. So a lot of the times, I've gotten Lurgoyfs to like 10 to 12 power, like fairly consistently. Making 10 or 12 rats is crazy. Like, you can leave a couple up to block because these rats can actually block. They come into play tap, but eventually they can block. Or you can just get through. You can get through with like 8 rats, and even if 4 of them die in combat, big deal. A few more will get through next turn. You'll win the game eventually. You can also just cast the card. Note that you can cast the card on one turn and get 8 rats. Cast the card the next turn and get another 8 rats. And like, have you not won the game? Did I mention impact trimmers is in this set? Like, there's all kinds of fun stuff that I want to do with this card, but I actually think that apart from the fun nonsense I want to get up to, this card is actually pretty powerful. My number 4 is Sky Knight Squire. I will never understand why this card is under $3 at the moment. Order on TCG Player, at least as I wrote this video. This card was like $265, and it'll probably go below that eventually. But in terms of pre-order prices, that's a steal for this. This is exactly the kind of thing people go freaking goo-goo over. Gaga. It's just, what this thing, it gets bigger whenever any creature comes into play on your side. So if you play Hop to It on your turn 3 on curve, it instantly becomes a 4/4 flyer. That's all right. It's pretty good too in like the Boros decks that play a bunch of creatures in Immodane's Recruiter. You hit a Gleeful Demolition. Congratulations. You've spent 1 mana and you put 3 +1/+1 counters on this dude. He instantly gains flying. You're saying when Evangelist came into play, 2 counters on this guy. You're saying when Evangelist died, that's a counter on this guy. Also interesting that he combos pretty well with the last card, right? If you play Revenge of the Rats and get like 6 rats, then like, congratulations on your enormous flyer. Keep that in your back pocket. Probably never actually do it. We're in the top 3 now, everybody. Celestial Armor is my number 3. Did we not all live through Maul of the Conclaves or Maul of the Skyclaves, whatever it was called? That card was good in Standard. This has flash and protects a guy the turn it comes down. I don't think it's like strictly better or anything than Maul of the Skyclaves, but I do think that it is. There's a scientific term for this. Redonkulous. I think somewhat. So it was originally coined by Hawking. This is a good Magic card, and for the life of me, I do not understand all the people who are like, this is just a 3 mana protect your guy spell. Those are supposed to cost 1. Like, yeah, those are supposed to cost 1. They're also not supposed to perma give the guy +2/+0 and flying. Do you realize how crazy that is? Like, the not only tempo swing, but, and this is important, demoralization of like blanking their good removal spell that they spent like most of their mana on that turn or something. And also your guy is even harder to deal with. They already wanted to kill that guy. It's like they already wanted to point a removal spell at your dude because he was a pain in the butt. Now you blank their removal spell, invalidate part of their turn, and your guy is even more of a nuisance. So I just don't see how this card isn't making the rounds right now, because it just seems kind of insane to me, man. I don't know. This is my job, but I've never been particularly good at it. Now, but I do think there's definitely something there. Most aggro decks don't want to hold up 3 mana. You're right about that, Mom. Again, especially given the flash, why aren't people talking about this card? It is very good, by my estimation. But again, sometimes I'm wrong. But sometimes I'm right. So let's hope I'm right on number 2, which is Mossborn Hydra, a card that is getting like a little bit of attention, but I don't think it's getting anywhere near, not even close to the attention this deserves, because this could be the game-ending card that a deck in Standard has been waiting on for a couple of months. Now, way back at this point, at the beginning of the year, right? It's almost the beginning of a new year now, but the beginning of the year, we got Murders of Karlov Manor, and that had Aftermath Analyst in it. Aftermath Analyst, already seen some Pro Tour play, man. It's a good Magic card. It's just a splendid reclamation on a relatively fragile stick, but nonetheless, you can do it the turn it comes in. It's a good card. And then we got Lumra in Bloomborough. At the same time, we also got Iridescent Vine Lasher in Bloomborough. In OTJ, we got all the deserts that deal with damage. We're cooking. There's stuff on the burners. The stove is preheating. We are cooking, but operative word, preheating. We have not quite served the meal yet, even with all these cards the deck got. But this, more than any other card in this set, because there are multiple landfall cards in this set. We got Ravenous Balos, for God's sake. That's pretty sick. But more than any other card in the set, I think that this is the card that those decks were waiting on. But my number one actually has the exact same casting cost. It too is a 2 and a green, 3 mana creature in this set. And, I've said this with a couple of cards. I can't believe people just aren't talking about this. This is the one that baffles me the absolute most. I don't know why everyone isn't going absolutely crazy. Why aren't you telling your grandma who doesn't even play Magic about Spinner of Souls? I mean, speaking of potential Commander All-Stars, what are we doing not ordering this card right now? Again, this card's like $250, $265 to order on TCG Player when I did the writing for the video at least. And what? This is like a better Midnight Reaper in a lot of decks, Midnight Reaper mostly goes in sacrifice decks. What are you sacking? Creatures. So it draws you the cards, right? What do you want to draw when you sack your creatures and draw cards from Midnight Reaper? What do you want to draw? More creatures. So you can play more creatures, sack them, draw more cards, have fun playing Magic. This guarantees me I draw a creature? You mean every creature? I'm not even playing Aristocrats. I'm not even playing Aristocrats. So you're telling me that every creature for the rest of the game that just dies in combat or to a removal spell, immediately replaces itself with another creature? What? How is that not one of the top 5 cards in the entire set? Evidently to everyone. Now I'm going to stop you right here because I know this says another on it, and I think that probably does make it not quite as good as a Midnight Reaper who counts itself when it dies like a good dude. This doesn't count itself when it dies, but Midnight Reaper, let me just throw this out here, another 3-drop that dies to cut down. You hate that, right? You've said it, with multiple entries on this list. You're like, Dev, you're stupid. That dies to cut down. Why would you play a 3-drop dies to cut down? Well, this doesn't. This is a 3-drop 4-power guy that ain't too shabby. It's got a keyword ability. It blocks Deep Cavern Bats all day. Blocks a ton of flyers in this format all day, actually. And gives you this ridiculous value. Whether you're sacrificing dudes or you're just losing guys, your guys tend to die from time to time in a game of Magic. Giving all of your dudes the ability to replace themselves, my God. I'm just super psyched about this. It goes really well in Dina Soul Steeper, a commander deck that's really near and dear to my heart. I love it. So it goes in that day one. But again, back to Standard, most of the focus of this video. I think that a 3-mana dude with this ability is not necessarily bound to surely see play or anything, but again, it's got 5 years to do it, so it's going to be good the whole 5 years. I imagine one of these standards is going to be conducive to it, and I think it might be this one right now. How are you not impressed by this card? Explain yourself. Usually my number ones on any list evolve into me being like, this card's crazy and I'm not wrong. And it's happened again. You can always depend on me for that take, especially in my number one. But yeah, let me know if I'm just super off on any of these today. If you just completely disagree with any of my choices. Again, what's a sleepers list for? That's what we're all doing here. But apart from that, let me know your sleepers. Anything you think isn't getting quite enough attention. And I feel like there's an awful lot of candidates for a list like this, So anything that you would have put on your sleepers list, let me know in the comments section. I read your comments. I'm interested in your takes. I want to know. Apart from that, as usual, just do the YouTube stuff as you file out of the theater here, Hit the button shaped like a thumb. I hear that helps me out in some intangible way. Apart from that, you can sub to the sandwich. That helps me out in a more tangible way, but it's still a little bit nebulous. I'm not really quite sure what really does, because you still have to hit the bell for the notifications, but I think it might still put my videos in more of your recommended feeds. I don't know. Give it a shot. Report back. See what happens. For science, it's data. We're gathering data. Also, I'm getting more subscribers if you do that. That's good. But apart from that, one more thing. I have a Patreon. I'm sorry. I just do. I have one. I have to make money on YouTube to keep doing YouTube for a living. So if you want to throw $1 a month, you can't buy nothing for $1 anymore, guys. This is where I say, like, come on, you buy a soda a month. But a soda's like $1.29 for a can now. Nothing costs $1. I'm the cheapest thing on the market, and I'm worth $1. Just $1 a month is all I really ask of you. Go over to the Patreon, help support the content. If you want more of it, probably the best way to ensure that'll happen. But I'm donezo for this onezo, my guys and gals and non-binary pals. I'm donezo. That is all ski Kowalski, as they say. I'm the only one that says that. As I say, it is all ski Kowalski. So I will catch you cats later. I'm Deb from the Blaze. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.